Now remember, when you talk about conservation, you're talking about this country and the developed countries. When you have countries like India and China and the countries in Africa and the developing world that is going to have a lot more energy if they're going to have a decent standard of living.
They can't follow the American model of overconsumption that we've been involved in.
Oh, that's right.
For the last 2 decades.
But
This is a place where the fast reactor really could reap worldwide benefits, because we could keep them from following our model and polluting so extremely with their huge numbers that we don't have.
the Chinese are building one large coal plant per week or thereabouts, and they're going to do that for years.
If it was possible to eliminate the red tape, what about the science and engineering and manufacture and actually, what are those obstacles in getting the IFR to functionality?
Well, you know, reactors have been built in other countries in 3 years or something, from groundbreaking to online. So it's something that can be done. But a reactor now, I think they're anticipating something like 6 years optimistically. One of the problems is that they don't have the manpower. And the result is, of course, that the United States is losing its leadership in the nuclear industry. China and India are working on their version of fast reactors. It's not as good as ours, but they're going ahead with it with what they have. And you know, and people are worried about the connection with nuclear weapons. And so that's another topic we probably want to
Well, we should definitely, because most of that is an illusion.
Well, it's a legitimate concern, but not quite in the way people think. The problem is that the plutonium that comes out of a reactor is not good for bombs. But you still want to handle it carefully, of course. But the risk is that along with the reactor program, you have to have a source of fuel. And there's 2 kinds of fuel. One is the uranium itself, which you normally have to enrich for most types of reactors. And then for fast reactors, certainly, and also for some of the thermal programs, you want reprocessing. Now, if you have a facility for enriching uranium or for reprocessing plutonium, then you have the ability to use that to make weapons-grade material. Now, a reactor doesn't normally do it, but you can subvert the system to do that. So the way to prevent the potential for proliferation is to keep the reprocessing and the enrichment facilities under international control so that they are not diverted. And without either enrichment or reprocessing, no country can make an atomic weapon. So what we need to do is get international control of the infrastructure for producing fuel. And given that, that's about the best we can do in terms of preventing proliferation. But as of now, the United States is not taking a strong leadership role in that regard, and there's no other country can do it. And the result is that we're going to have a sort of a chaotic development there, because nuclear power is coming. Some people would like to wish it away, but it just won't happen because there's too much need for the energy. And so what we need is international management, and so far we're not getting it.
Yeah, we need an international nuclear regulatory commission that comes out of the United Nations or somebody like that.
Well, yeah, the details.
Or at least, yeah,
there's a number of ways you can go, and it would take negotiating. And the United States, in fact, has made a proposal called GNEP, Global Nuclear Energy Partnership, which would have control over the fuel production facilities. And in fact, I think 21 countries have said, yes, we would like to participate in such a scheme. But the Congress, in its wisdom, has voted down or allocated very little money for this. And part of the GNEP plan was the General Electric proposal to make a demonstration reactor, because the other part of GNEP is to deal with the nuclear waste. And that is going to take fast reactors to do that and to make efficient use of the uranium.
Yeah. In one of your circulating emails about using the waste heat from nuclear reactors to convert CO2, primarily from, or ideally from biomass, into a usable fuel. Can you illuminate us on that any more?
It's technically possible to create liquid, synthetic gasoline, for instance, or for instance, methanol, which can be used as a fuel. That's simple. If you get the power from electricity generated by nuclear, preferably, and generate hydrogen, and then get CO2 maybe trapped from a coal plant, or from, if you want, wherever you can get it, or extract it from the atmosphere. And there's a chemical process that you can use where you've got hydrogen plus CO2 plus energy, and you get methanol plus oxygen. And then you burn the methanol, so that is carbon neutral. If you don't...
It's carbon neutral because you're using carbon dioxide to get the interim synthetic methanol kind of, and then you're going to produce, you're going to have carbon dioxide at the far end again.
Yeah, so as long as we have coal plants, we can get probably that's a good source for CO2. Once the coal plants are all gone, which will not be in my lifetime, then you can extract CO2 from the atmosphere or whatever. But,
okay. So it's a recycling process where you're increasing your efficiency, essentially.
And the thing is that there is the infrastructure for distributing liquid fuels. We do not have the infrastructure for distributing hydrogen. And so the hydrogen economy, as people think of it as, say, burning hydrogen, is a long way off. But if you use the hydrogen to make methanol, synthetic methanol, then that's a good approach to a hydrogen economy.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, I felt that the hydrogen thing was the hydrogen fuel cell is sort of a sleight of hand trick to keep us right where we're at, because you have something that's so far out in the future. But people can make these reactors. They can make their own hydrogen ultimately. I think there's going to be fleets of vehicles where it doesn't. They will, maybe they'll store it. They'll just have it their own storage facility. It's not going to be for the average car buyer.
But even that has problems, and already we know how to use methanol. I think it is not a very big engineering problem to convert the internal combustion engine to using methanol until we get something better. But for now, that would be in my mind, the ideal way to go.
In terms of U.S. and world energy policy, how do you think we should invest our resources for the short term and for the longer term?
Well, I think we should make it as simple as possible to build nuclear power plants. In other words, make the regulations usable and realistic and safe. They are safe already, but you want to be careful about that. So that's one thing. The other thing is we want to look ahead and get the fast reactors started so that they will start coming online when they're needed. But if you don't start now, you won't get there.
Right.
And of course, we also need trained people to do it. We need the manufacturing facilities and so on. It's like ramping up a new industry that's been essentially dormant for 50 years.